everybody. Thank you for being here. We're very thrilled to have you today. I'm Lisa Morell. Joining me here in the United Soccer Coaches National Office are our experts, Dave, Simeone, and Rob Herringer. Today we're going to be answering some questions from our membership as well as non-members that cover various aspects of soccer coaching and development. A lot of the questions that have already come in are focusing on youth levels, but please feel free to chime in with any other questions you have regarding high school, college, and pro. At the end of the event, we're going to be awarding 2 lucky winners with $25 that can be discounted toward any course of your choice within our courses here at United Soccer Coaches. This will be a random selection, and we will be contacting the winners directly. So, to get started, I'm going to ask Dave here one of our first questions, which is, what are the key differences between coaching at a club versus coaching a national team?
Well, Lisa, thank you for having Rob and I here today. We're very excited about this. You know, there are some very fundamental and key differences between club commitments and national team commitments in terms of coaching. Club coaches are in an environment where they work with their players frequently every day. They're managing matches on a consistent basis, usually close together, scheduled close together, versus the national coach. The national coach gets intermittent windows with the national team and the pool of players that they are working with. So their influence is quite a bit different. And the overall tactical management is a little bit similar in that you can only play the way and prepare the team in the way that the players have the talent to play.
And then this is a 2-part question, so we have people asking, how do coaches manage tactical planning under those circumstances?
Well, again, the national coach has infrequent contact with the national team players. Sometimes they're talking to the club managers at the pro level and getting insight from them about how the players are doing, what's their status, how's their form, how much they are playing, and those are all factors so that when you bring a team together, it's very short-term planning as the national coach versus, again, the club coach, which has them a lot more.
Anything to add?
Not really. I mean, obviously, national team coach, as Dave says, they're only going to meet with those players a certain amount of times a year. So what they have to accomplish while they have the group together is pretty important. And the planning that goes into it, scouting and making sure that you've got the very best players in camp that you can have. I mean, it's a lot of different responsibilities for a national team coach than a typical youth coach. But, you know, there's certainly some similarities and things that overlap as well.
Okay, awesome. We'll move on to our next question. And like I've stated before, a lot of these are coming from youth coaches, youth directors. So this one in particular is a boys youth director, and he's asking, how does one start a coaching pathway in college soccer?
Yeah, I mean, I can use myself as an example. I think the most important thing with becoming a college soccer coach is learning how to coach first, and getting yourself immersed in coaching education courses and learning opportunities is huge. So I think a big step for me was just committing to going through as many courses as I could and not rushing through the courses, but making sure that I took the time to learn and reflect after every course, but then just continued to learn more and more. And through organizations such as United Soccer Coaches, you meet people along the way in these courses that can help you along your path. So you build your network, you build your mentors in the game. So I think the very first and most important thing is you gotta learn how to coach first. And getting your education is important, getting the experience on the field is important. But then getting opportunities to work with players of that age and ability. So seeking out graduate assistant opportunities, seeking out assistant coach opportunities. Most of us aren't going to be gifted a team as a head coach right out of school or right as we begin this process is making this our career. So I think those are some great steps in that process. But the experience and the education are critical to making yourself as marketable as possible to those colleges and those athletic directors who make those decisions.
And out of the courses that we offer, are there any that you could provide guidance on?
Well, I have to say a lot of our advanced diplomas will help tremendously. I always say our national diploma is probably one of our best courses we teach. And the material that we cover, the curriculum that we cover in that course, you can use with young players, older players, pros. So I would definitely recommend our advanced diploma courses. And then I was fortunate enough to take the master coach diploma. And I have to tell you, that was kind of not a finishing piece to my education, but it certainly rounded me out and prepared me for things that happen outside of the field, not just on the field.
Wonderful. Dave, our next question is from a head JV boys coach. They're asking, what does the USMNT need to make it to the next level?
Well, obviously, with the recent results to the Copa America, I mean, nobody's pleased with that. Everyone wants the national team to do well. And it's a complicated set of issues. Typically, with the way the national team goes, it's not what's happened over the last 2 months or the last 4 months that's overall influenced it. It's happened over a period of years. So whoever the new coach is coming in has to examine their plan strategically for player development. Right now, many of the men's players are going abroad. How much playing time they're getting, the majority of them are not getting a huge amount of playing time. A few are, and that's a key issue because the national team operates in international windows, either in friendlies, qualifying, but how much they're playing with their club. The new coach coming in has to assess all that. And they also have to assess some basic factors too. Do they have all the players in the existing pool that you would want in, considering that the World Cup is 2 years away? Is there anybody on the fringe? Through a new set of eyes and some assessment, do they want to change the composition of the existing national team pool? So it's a combination of a lot of complex factors.
Okay. Next question is coming in from an assistant coach on the college level. How is United Soccer Coaches adapting its coaching courses to meet the demands of modern soccer? And as a two-part question, they're also asking, how do we evaluate the effectiveness of our current courses?
I think that's a challenge of any organization that does coaching education, is to make sure that you're on the cutting edge and that what you're teaching is relevant to the modern game. And as we all know, soccer evolves all the time. What I love about the game is that it's always changing, always improving. It's becoming faster, more athletic, better soccer players in general on the field. And then the cool thing about all this is that we get exposed to it on a daily basis because it's on TV every day. So how are we adapting to that? It's one, we are evaluating our curriculum and our educational resources daily. And I'm proud to say that that's something that we're constantly working on improving. So literally all of the courses that we teach, from the foundations level all the way through the advanced diplomas, they've all been refreshed within the last year. And it's for this very reason, so that we can stay on the cutting edge and stay up to date with the modern game. And how do we evaluate that? Well, obviously the feedback that we receive from our student coaches and those who take our courses is critical for that. We are hard on ourselves. We evaluate how we do amongst ourselves as peers, peer educators, but also hearing from our student coaches is very, very important to get that feedback and to know, are we hitting the mark? Are we getting them the information and resources they need to coach at the various levels of the game today, not 10 years ago or 15 years ago?
Anything to add, Dave?
I would agree with Rob. The process of evaluating and then making changes. Here's what I find interesting about this, the perspective of modern soccer, because I can go back 30 or 40 years ago and think about how in the 80s, the perspective of the game was changing, and we considered it at that time to be modern. And we're 30 or 40 years down the road, and what we're finding too is that there are some essential foundational elements of coaching, of interpersonal interaction, basing teaching and setting up your team, and teaching and coaching based on principles of play. So I think there are some consistent trends. Technology is a part of it now, and how we adapt to how the courses are delivered, but it's a constant process.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback one more thing. The modern game, that's a good point that Dave made, the modern game. The cool thing about soccer is it seems to be a little cyclical, where now you're seeing teams and clubs play in a way they used to play many, many years ago. Guardiola's behind a lot of that, right? Where he's bringing back like the WM and different shapes and styles of play and formations to combat what he's seeing, what people are bringing against them. And it's so fun to see it become cyclical, and some of the old things that we used to think are outdated are now making a comeback, and that's pretty neat.
Wonderful. Our next question is from a youth head coach and director. They are asking, what strategies are most effective for recruiting players to a new academy? It's also a two-part question. Does advertising, coaching history, or championships won have the greatest impact?
This is for me?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to enjoy answering this question, I think, because in my previous position, I was a club director. And I was a club director at a club that was a very strong community-based club, amazing people. However, we weren't a club that played at the ECNL level or any kind of national league level, but it's something that we aspired to get to. The challenge for us was recruiting players to our club rather than the clubs that maybe play at that level. And I think where we found a little bit of success was just being as open and transparent as possible with the general public about who's coaching your children, what are their qualifications, why are they coaching these particular sets of kids. I think educating the general public, and when I say general public, obviously a lot of that is parents, on your curriculum. We would share our player-parent handbook with anyone who would ask. We would share our curriculum with anyone who would ask. And the more you can get the word out about the good things that you're doing in the community for children, for the holistic development of children, I think the better. Now, naturally, and I'm sure there's people watching today who would say, well, the best way to attract people is to win. And I'm not going to disagree with that, because that's naturally going to attract people to your program. But I think, as we all know, winning's only a small part of development, holistic development. So the more you can let people know, and I know that's a challenge too with marketing and getting all that information out, but the more you can get the word out about who you are, what you stand for, why this is a good, safe place for your child to grow and develop as a person and player, the better. And I'll let Dave maybe jump in on that too.
Well, sometimes I wonder, how much we're overusing the word academy. Because the United States is a little bit of a unique environment. The implications of academies here are not exactly, nor do they totally reflect academies in Europe or other places. So Rob touched on it. It's how are you going to measure success? And so we're very team-based in this country. How's the team doing? How's the program doing? We're not very geared toward individual successes and how individual players are doing. If I were a parent taking my youngster to an academy, I want to look at 3 or 4 years beyond their age group that they're in now. So if they're under 10, I want to see, well, where are the under 12s, where are the under 14s, what have they produced in that academy that you can look at And it's not only just the talent, the athleticism, but it's also the overall environment and how that lends itself to developing a person as much as the player.
In that second question, does advertising, coaching history, championships won help? Well, the answer is for sure, because it gets people's attention, and parents are going to want their child to play for a successful coach, no doubt. But I would say maybe more important would be you are advertising for your club or your academy every time you go out into public.
Right.
So whether you're training a team, whether you're coaching in a game, that is a reflection on your organization. So I would encourage any club, any academy, to make sure that they're doing what they need to do internally, so everyone's on the same page with proper behavior. The way we do things around here is the way what I say at the club, what I did say at the club. But every day is an opportunity to show people what your club stands for and how you work with children.
So when a new club or a new academy, if they have limited resources, would you say word of mouth would be a good way to promote? Because I think what people are struggling with, and a lot of our questions are focusing on, if we are under-resourced, what is the best push? What is the best approach for us to recruit or to develop or to really help the players and the coaches?
I would like to, word of mouth is important. It's very important. But having come right out of that environment, a very competitive club environment, yes, you want people saying good things about your coaches, good things about your club. That's only going to help generate more interest. So go out and do good things, go out and treat people the right way. Be kind to referees, be kind to players, your fellow coaches, even though they may irritate you at times, be a good ambassador for the game and make sure that all of your representatives are doing the same thing. And that's going to naturally bring people to you. I don't think there's a substitute for winning, right? That's a very quick way to get people's attention and let people know that, hey, you might be pretty good at what you're doing, but there's so much more to it in a youth environment, in a developmental environment.
This question indicates how much the youth environment has changed, because probably 30 years ago, we started to listen to people who started to refer to youth soccer in specific locales or regions as the marketplace. So we stopped talking about players and player development. We started talking about the marketplace, and we started treating people sometimes like customers. And I guess that's not entirely bad, because coaching and programming is service oriented, right? But it also lends itself to a business component that has in some ways seeped into youth soccer. So I think we just start talking about players, start talking about individual player development, start talking about the impact and the implications of coaching, and that gets us recentered on everything, I think.
I think that's a great comment, and I want to just piggyback on it. It's the courage. You got to have the courage to stick to your guns when you're doing things the right way, and you're not doing it just to make money or have a successful business. You're in it for the right reasons, and that's hard for some clubs and organizations to say, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, and this is how we're going to go about our business, because they're competing against other clubs that have the bigger names, maybe won more things. It's harder. But I would tell you, having come out of that environment, stick to your guns, trust the process, and be true to yourself. And make sure that if you're doing what's right for kids, you can never go wrong. It's only going to help you.
So we can then, I think this is a good segue into the next question. I think that previous question provided a lot of insight. This next question focuses a little bit more on where a youth coach is asking, should coaching badges place more emphasis on the mental and interpersonal aspects of the game? So we're talking about developing players, and so how does this?
100%.
Yeah.
I love this question. All of them have been very good, but I think the more and more we look into coaching and all of the things and all the skills that go into being a coach, historically, when you go to a coaching course, most of the focus is on the X's and O's, the tactics, the systems, the styles, how to train certain topics, certain aspects of the game. But not always have we spent a lot of time on the stuff that happens off of the field. I don't want to discredit, because I think if you're a good coach, you got to be really good on the field, first and foremost. But there's more emphasis now, obviously, in athletics in general, on mental performance, on mental health, and creating good relationships, team management, player management. So we are putting more emphasis on that in especially our advanced diploma courses. We have Dr. Ben Freakley working with us actively on our mental performance diploma, and supporting the curriculum. So that's very important for us. And then we have other people that are helping us along the way too, along with our amazing educators. So I will tell you that we are putting more emphasis on this, and we do have specialty courses now in some of these areas, such as mental performance or team management, player management, those kind of things. The things that we do off of the field tend to get us in trouble more than the things that we do on the field sometimes as coaches. So the more we can educate folks on best practices, the better, I think.
In continuing the conversation about player development, this next question focuses a little bit more on maybe just personality, but we thought it was important enough to sort of discuss between the two of you. And it's a youth coach asking, how can coaches assist players that might be a little bit shy or a little bit nervous? What do you do there to sort of help develop that personality on the field?
It just shows you the expanding role of awareness that the coaches today have to have, I think, and it seems to me that's not much different than a teacher. You have a class, but the class is made up of individuals. Individuals come with their own experiences, their own attitude or maturity. In the case of youth players, it's not only about physical maturity or soccer maturity, it's psychologically, socialization. So being able to deal with people and kind of meet them where they're at a little bit. Also, being able to talk to parents about it, because let's face it, parents spend a lot more time with their youngsters than we do. We see them for snippets at a time, but putting more into understanding how to meet kids where they're at and be a part of kind of bringing them along.
Yeah, I think this is something that coaches face all the time at all kinds of ages, and I've certainly seen it in my career. I think I look at this more of I'm looking at it more in the youth perspective.
Yes.
But I think creating safe spaces for kids goes without saying. That's very important. Kids should be eager to get out of the car and go to soccer. And how do you create that environment where they can't wait to come and hate to leave, right? And that helps with shy players sometimes, just by feeling welcome, feeling part of a group. And the coach helps tremendously with that. Having what Doug Lamov calls a culture of error is very important too, where it's okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are part of the learning process, and they're not punished. That's a quick way to turn off a kid from the game. Is to be upset with them every time they make a mistake. Mistakes are part of our learning process. I think it's very important for youth coaches to teach children how to be good teammates. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that sound like? And I encourage coaches to do that with the team. Come up with guidelines for being a good teammate and have it shared. And when it's shared and developed together, then there's more ownership involved, and they hold each other accountable a little bit more sometimes. I think with shy players, catching them being good is really important, letting them know when they've done something well. And what I've experienced too is it's just the maybe after training or after game where you pull them aside and say, hey, you were so good today. Like, I loved how you was in the inside of your foot when you were passing that ball, or whatever it might be. That boosts their confidence, and then the next time they can't wait to come see you again, right? And I guess one other thing would be progress reports. Okay, making sure that there's natural communication with the player, with the parents in that kind of triangle, like I call it, so they feel comfortable in the process and they don't feel like they're always being evaluated or under the microscope or something like that. So it's kind of a long answer, but I'm pretty passionate about that.
I think that in discussing these types of players that might need a little bit more encouragement and uplifting, whether it's on or off the pitch, there's an additional question here from another coach, and I kind of want to segue into this before we take a bit of a follow-up break for some people that are just joining us and are not sure what's going on here. But before we get into a little bit of information on our membership, I do kind of want to tack the question along of another youth coach asking, how can coaches effectively engage parents in the coaching process?
Well, the easy way is to be proactive. It's not much different than teachers. Teachers have to have conversations with parents as intermediaries, and clear, concise, and honest feedback is the key to that. But being proactive is essential. And also, parents have to understand that even at 11 or 12 years of age, part of the self-sufficiency that kids learn is go talk to your coach on your own. Go learn what it's like to create a relationship with them and to get the information firsthand without the parent interceding all the time. That creates a little bit of ownership for the kid too.
Yeah, this is a great question. Engaging parents in the developmental process of their children is very important. And Dave touched on it, which I always bring this example up. Parents in this day and age, they expect regular communication from their child's teachers or their school in most cases. And that is no different in the athletic environment, in my opinion. And I truly feel like if we are invested in holistic child development, then parents, coaches, and players all have to actively communicate with one another and be on the same page. So how do you engage parents? It's important to set up a process for that. It's important, obviously, to have a preseason meeting, which most of us do. But how do you communicate and interact with those parents throughout the process? That's the most important thing. So, me, for example, I love doing weekly emails and updates. These are the things we're working on. This is what you should look for in games, and we should be hearing you cheer for these things, right? It's the active communication where people feel like they're all part of the process. Now, obviously, we got to set boundaries, and that's important, but that's the process that I'm talking about. Is you establish those processes at the beginning, and then you got to follow through. As a coach, you've got to follow through, make sure that you do what you say you're going to do, communicate, provide updates, and make sure that all three pieces of that triangle are actively communicating for the benefit of the child.
Wonderful. We're just going to take a quick moment to say hello to anybody that has joined while we've been here. We only really have about 15 minutes or so left. We're trying to move through these questions as best as we can. We did receive a good amount of them prior to the event, but if you have any questions while you're on watching, please drop them below so that we can address them while we're here. If we don't get to them while we're live, we will be sure to post them on our website after and on social media as well. We'd also like our audience watching that we are hoping to have the questions that we've addressed reiterated online, any questions we didn't get to as well in both English and in Spanish. We also want to take some time to thank our members and encourage those of you that are not to join. We can have Dave and Rob give a quick overview of why it's important to join, especially when it comes to our education courses, the kind of impact that it can have, and again, why it is important to continue to educate as you are either a coach, a player, an administrator, etc. Our next question, we can dive in a little bit into some of how our membership and our education ties into this. This is a little bit more license focused. A youth trainer asks, what challenges do college students face when pursuing higher level coaching licenses, like the USD license or above, especially students that are studying in a different state a different state from their home residence. What is the best approach for these students?
Well, first of all, I love the fact that there's a college student that's already looking at being a coach. And I see more of this in my interactions with people across the country. And in fact, I was fortunate enough to actually teach a course on the college campus I coached at, and that those students received United Soccer Coaches diplomas. So I guess the question is, what challenges do college students face when pursuing higher level? Well, time. You're a full-time student, and that requires your time and attention. A lot of coaches are playing at the collegiate level too, so finding the time to do it. But I would tell you that carving out the time out of your schedule to work with a local club team, work with a local organization, get your feet wet, just get some general experience being in and around the environment with kids and parents and all that stuff is important. But then it's carving out the time to take your courses, as I mentioned earlier in this presentation. You have to commit to developing yourself. And money you spend on developing yourself is always money well spent. So any time that you're investing in your education or development, it's only going to improve you in the long run. And as we know, a lot of the things we will learn in these coaching courses, they don't just serve us on the soccer field or with our teams, they serve us in our lives. So I would say, definitely carving out the time is the most important thing. And then you don't have to take a course in the state that you're going to school in, or you don't have to take a course in your hometown. You could take a course in any state. We provide opportunities in virtually all states across the country. Find something that fits where you're at in your coaching development and get involved right away. And then certainly there's all kinds of online resources that you could take part in, especially with United Soccer Coaches. We have a large library of e-learning opportunities. So I think that young coaches in college thinking about coaching, it's just making that commitment to improving your education as a coach as well.
Lovely. Okay, so let's see here. We've got a little bit more questions that we can address. Let's go to, we've got a youth and a high school coach that is asking, what advice would you give to a new coach with limited playing experience in competitive soccer and basic soccer knowledge?
You want me to take this one or Dave?
Well, I'll start out by saying, we don't undervalue what the youth coach who doesn't have an incredible amount of experience specific to soccer, the impact that they can make on a youngster. They can certainly increase their knowledge base about the sport, but in dealing with youngsters, it's more about the environment that you create. It's a games and activity orientation. It's about letting the game or the activities do the teaching. You don't need to be an extravagantly experienced coach. There are needs. We're always going to have the need for parent coaches who start out with those kids in the ages between 6 and 12 and 13 that are going to have big time impacts, not only in the player's development, but in the growth of the game. The game doesn't really grow in our country, nor anywhere else, but in our country, from the top down. It grows from the bottom up. And so having those folks make those contributions who come not with a lot of soccer specific experience, are good with kids, good for the game, that's very beneficial.
Totally agree. Most youth coaches across this country maybe tick this box where they were voluntold to coach their child's team because nobody else stepped up to do it, right? I think there's a massive amount of people in this country who fall under that category. So it's okay, first of all. It's okay that you have a limited playing experience. I always would say, a good person, if you could get a good person first, you can always make them into a good coach. So if you got good people working within your club, working with your children, first of all, yeah, they're going to take care of those children and they're going to put them in a safe place, right? We can always, in the right environments, we can always teach you how to be a better coach. So advise, have an open mind. Don't be set on what you picked up on YouTube or what you saw, the Italian national team doing the other night. Have an open mind, seek out advice from your club directors, from other coaches and peers in your club, and get your education, which we've been talking about. And soon you're going to be more comfortable, and you're gonna develop your own way and style of doing things as a coach. So some of the best coaches in the world didn't have great playing backgrounds, right? So don't be intimidated by that. If you enjoy being around children and having a part in developing them to their full potential, we can always guide you in the right direction. And if all else fails, give us a call. We'll point you in the right direction.
Thank you. We are going to now take some time to take a look at the questions that have been coming in live, and we'll do a little bit of a transition here. Some of the questions are likely going to be combined with the folks that have already RSVP'd and submitted. If you submitted a question prior to joining us, thank you so much. As you can see, these questions are, we're gathering some insightful answers for you. We're trying to gather the best resources and the best advice and guidance from these two here with us today. At the moment, we've got Jason, who is asking us, how do we attract United Soccer coaches in-person training to Louisville, Kentucky? So how do we get there? Jason wants to know.
It's not that hard. It's not that involved. I mean, one of the factors that we find that is impactful in the success of our programs, people, they request them. They put in the request forms, they get the dates, they get all the specifics so that we understand what costs they're going to be for the facility and for all of the other things, the time frame. Many times folks in these locales or in the regions, they know more about their schedule and what will fit when or what people are interested in hosting. So the fact that he's calling from Louisville, he's done about half the work.
Yeah, the short answer for me is, we get course requests every single day. You can go to the host a course section of our website to see that information. So we get those questions all the time about how do we host a course here or there or wherever. And I think the most important thing is making sure that before you make that official request, make sure you got an audience. Make sure you have people that are ready to sign up and take the course. Sometimes we see people, they want a national diploma, for example, because they need the national diploma. Totally understand that. That makes sense. But maybe there aren't enough people in that area who are ready for the national diploma. So reach out to us, contact us directly, and we can walk you through the course request process and kind of the requirements to host a course, because there are some of those. Yeah. Absolutely.
We've also got KJ, and they are a director at a volunteer-driven club. KJ is asking, how do I get parent volunteer coaches to show up to coaching education sessions we're trying to host? This might be our last question that we can address live here today, just as FYI. But yeah, they're asking, how do I get parent volunteer coaches to show up to coaching education sessions we are trying to host as coaches?
The simple way is this, and I found this out as a state director of coaching. We know that coaches need it, but when you're talking to administrators, when you're talking to board members, they're thinking about the imposition it puts on volunteer coaches. So the way I addressed it, I said it's a risk management issue. So if there's anything that goes on, the first thing that they're going to look at in discovery is what kind of training that the parents have, who are parent coaches. And so first of all, it's a risk management issue, and we want to guarantee the safety of kids. And so education is the way to do it.
I'm smiling to myself here because I just left this environment where, we worked with hundreds of parent coaches. And in our club, And like many others, we had mandatory meetings before each season to make sure everybody was on the same page with the expectations and how we do things around here, which I've been saying. I met an amazing and worked with an amazing club administrator who her idea was she had all the team rosters and team information and even medals for the end of the season in a packet, and that she would bring to the preseason meeting, and the only way you get that packet is if you go to the meeting.
Incentivized.
And I will tell you, that was brilliant.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
hats off to her for coming up with that idea. Now, obviously, people will have reasons why they can't make it for one reason or another, and you got to have backup plans. But another thing to do is, if your club is fortunate enough to provide your parent coaches with clothing, a T-shirt, for example, hold that until they come and get educated and meet the demands or the needs of being a parent coach. And then last thing is education in your organization for coaches, I think, should be a non-negotiable. Anytime you're going to put an adult with children, I think they need some kind of prep. And no matter what their experience is in the game or in coaching or teaching, it doesn't matter. I think it should be a non-negotiable that all parent coaches receive some kind of education before they are given a set of 10 to 12 children and say, off you go. I think for us, and I think Dave would agree, that's a non-negotiable for us, is making sure that we have mandatory education that parent coaches attend. Getting them there, which is this question, there's some strategies that can help get them there, but you shouldn't ever want people working for you who aren't willing to be trained to do their job properly.
All right. We want to thank everybody for their insightful questions and participation today. I also want to thank both Rob and Dave for being here and answering the questions that you have all provided. We want to encourage you to explore our detailed courses to further understanding your skills. You can find more information on our website or by contacting the education department. We currently have a Communities Initiative grant program that some of you have already been eligible to apply to. Part of this information was in the RSVP link. If you're not able to find it, we will be sure to share some information after the event on social media as to how you can be eligible to apply. This grant is for folks that are working in underserved communities that are needing a little bit of help with some discounts that can go towards our courses and events and membership.
That's great.
I would just like to say thanks to Lisa for moderating this today. This was our first Facebook Live, and we hope we have several on the menu coming up here. So thanks to Lisa and Elias behind the scenes working with us. It's been a great experience. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.